Hello guys, welcome to DW Live number 3. We made it to our 3rd episode, still going. Today we're joined by Laura Capell-Abra from Stress Matters. I'm delighted to be joined by Laura. Apologies for the title of this stream, showing the wrong thing. I think it's showing it from our first edition. Apologies about that, we're going to try and sort that out. But this definitely is the Laura show. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Laura. Hello Laura, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm not sure how I feel about the Laura show.
So, do you want to, before we get started, I just wanted to say to everybody listening, this show is discussing about any kind of mental health issues and stress, particularly this difficult time at the moment that we've all got. Not only that, but going forward as well, once, the reset button is pressed. How we're going to be moving forward. Laura's going to give us some great tips and things. So if you do have any questions, I understand that this is a kind of quite an emotive subject and personal thing. So by all means, you can send them into us anonymously. If you send them by direct message to Diane Thompson, and she will pass them to me, and I'll just speak them on there without saying any details. So anyway, thanks Laura for joining us. Really appreciate it. Do you want to tell us a bit about your background, how Stress Matters was formed, and a bit of information, please?
Yeah, sure. So I have been in the events industry for, I'm not sure exactly, I'm going to guess like 17 years now, something like that. And I've been I was organising events for a good 14, 15 years, and I was working at agency side. So doing loads of different things, conferences, experiential festivals, loads of different types of events. And then 4 years ago, I left to set up a coaching company called No More Ifs or Buts. And we do coaching and development for the events industry. And through doing those coaching sessions, we were finding that so many people were talking about stress and the pressure and how to cope with that pressure in the events industry, that it felt like we needed to do something to help people with that side of their career development. So back in 2017, we did some research into the events industry to understand a little bit more about stress and the relationship between the role, the industry, companies and the individuals. And then since then, we formed Stress Matters, created a pledge scheme, and now we have kind of built it up into a kind of bigger company where we do reports. So we have insights reports that we do. We have a lot of accountability. We make people make changes when they say they're going to make changes rather than just say they're going to do it. And then support. So we do a lot of things like mental health, first aider training, resilience workshops, support line, Buddies Matter. So we've kind of taken it from what was just a little bit of a frustration that we were talking about stress a lot in a coaching session into let's try and help people. How can we best do that?
So was there a kind of moment when in your agency life that you thought this is what I want to do? Because, obviously it's well known that being an event organizer is one of the most. Was it just a combination of seeing things around you and feeling those things yourself that made you, want to get involved in this?
So I think there was a couple of different things way back when. So probably about 12, 13 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I had what I would now consider burnout. I was working at a different agency and burnt out. The moment I kind of realized that things weren't right at that point, I was writing a budget for a client and I put 5 different job titles down on that budget. And I knew when I was writing it that I was going to be doing every single one of those jobs. And that kind of moment hit me and I just thought, this is not good. And I had to take some time off work. We changed all the responsibilities around. I went and saw a counsellor and changed my life around quite a lot at that point. And then kind of carried back into the events industry because I love it as an industry. So I didn't want to stop organising events. But I knew that company, the culture wasn't supporting me how I needed it to. And then actually on the other side, when I was running the agency just before I left to move into coaching, one of the kind of moments then I think was I had a couple of my team that went off on sick leave and it was stress related sick leave. And I felt awful. I felt so responsible because I thought I'm a nice person. I'm trying to create this environment where everybody's happy and I look after everybody. But I'm failing. What else can I do to help these individuals? So I think it was a bit of a combination of having personal experience myself years ago, managing to work through the kind of the self-awareness and understanding of how to look after my relationship with stress. But then as a manager, understanding that I was still having, or the environment around that person was still having this negative impact, that I really wanted to do something at that point. So I think it was a bit of a kind of personal from years ago, feeding into being able to really understand what they were going through, but trying to help them as well. Yeah,
I mean, I think the pure nature of the event industry is quite a stressful one. I mean, it's deadline driven by everything. The amount of work that you have to do. I think there's a lot of culture I know personally with, if you want something to do and you just do it yourself, instead of passing it on to people and using your team and trusting people. So I think that's a lot to do with it. I mean, do you think those are the main reasons for it in the events industry, or the other contributing factors?
Yeah, so we know that one of the biggest issues, the piece of research we did a couple of years ago, I think it was 68% of people cited the pure level of workload was one of their biggest factors of stress. And the follow-up things on that were client demands, or specifically unrealistic client demands, and deadlines. And obviously it's a deadline driven industry. We're never going to remove deadlines. But actually I think it's the pressure we put on ourselves to do this amazing event every single time, but obviously not being able to control every single thing that happens around us. So I think, as you said, we want to be able to control it, but we can't control everything. Now is proving that entirely. And so I think it's a combination of things that built up to that. But we know, anybody that works in the industry knows that we have a lot of work to do. To put on a good event, you've got to be over everything. You've got to think about everything. And as you say, trying to work with your team, trusting your team is a really important part of that, so that you can delegate. And quite often, if there's that trust isn't there, you keep all that work to yourself.
Yeah, totally agree. So obviously the hot topic that's on everybody's mind, not just the event industry, is obviously the C19 problem at the moment. And, not only I think it's like a double whammy. It's the health issues for yourself and your family and your loved ones and everyone, the world, if you're compassionate. And then obviously secondary is, our jobs and our security. How have you seen it affecting people's mental levels, and just the kind of, are people being normal in this? Are they thinking they're normal? What are you kind of seeing?
I'm seeing definitely shift over a period of time, but definitely it's affecting people. I mean, you sit there and go, how could it not? It's got to affect everyone, because you say it's personal as well. It's industry. It's the industry we love. It's the kind of the whole world, but it's also a personal factor of, yourself, your family, your friends, and all those things. And we're seeing that. So we're seeing a lot of people reaching out to us saying, I just don't know what to do. Either they're losing their jobs, or they're going on furlough, or they might run the company and don't have any events coming up and they're just feeling really uncomfortable. And we're having loads of talks with people like that. And I've seen it's been quite heartwarming seeing when we've been speaking to people, actually people then following up and really opening up about what is actually going on. So people that have ended up isolating, girlfriends or, partners' houses or whatever, that now they're also having to suddenly live with a person because otherwise they weren't going to see them for 4 months. So it's coming in all different shapes and sizes. And you said the finance impact of that is huge. But what we are seeing is that there's kind of ups and downs for everybody. So at the beginning, it was, there was a lot of people in denial, as we know. There was quite a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. Why aren't we doing more? How can we do so? I think there's a lot of people, but not everybody, that have moved into acceptance now. So actually a lot more people are kind of forward thinking, like, okay, right, this is what's happening. So how do we move forward? How do we how do we create our new normal? But I think one of the things that I'm really keen for people to kind of recognize is that not everybody is in that space yet. Some people are still really struggling with the impact that it's having on them and their family and their businesses. So while some people might be a little bit further down the line and feel quite comfortable, actually not everybody is. And we need to be quite conscious of the fact that everybody's at different stages.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've probably seen that on the group as well. We've probably seen all those stages. And, certainly in the last week or so, that's been prevalent, and the mood is kind of lifted. There's inquiries been coming in, a lot more things. Whereas the first, what we noticed in the first week or so, everybody was reporting things, wanted to tell everybody about what's going on. Now everybody knows everybody's watching the news 24/7. And probably less so now. Everybody's probably dipped after that.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point. So I don't want to kind of worry people, but I do want people to be aware that we're going to be in isolation for a while, as we know. We've found our new normal. Most of us have started to find a new normal now. We're getting a little bit of a rhythm going. We're a little bit more comfortable with things. But we've seen this from people in Italy that actually a bit further down that kind of isolation period, that there's going to be a situation where that new normal, we get fatigue about it, and we really want to go and see people, and we want to reconnect, face to face with people. I am conscious that, some people are in a better place now than we might have been last week or the week before, but we also need to make sure we don't get complacent with ourselves and other people in case that actually goes up and down again over the next few weeks too.
I think it's really important to just have a flexible view of people. You see, yourself, you go up and down. And I think this is just accentuating it, really. That's kind of what I'm feeling about it, and how when I'm talking to people, I can see moods almost changing. So I think you just have to accept that, don't you? Anyway, I'll go back to some of my questions. So tell us a bit about Stress Matters and what you guys can do for individuals and stuff.
Yeah, so what we can do for individuals is that we've launched a couple of support services that we are actively kind of saying to people, reach out to us. We want to be able to help you. We know this is really tough. And we actually launched Buddies Matter a while ago, but obviously it's totally coming into its own now. So Buddies Matter is a program where we're matching events professionals from around the world now, which is amazing, and putting them in contact with another buddy. And we're saying, you guys look out for each other, just have each other's back, because sometimes you might not want to talk to your colleagues at work, or you might be a freelancer and might not have anybody you feel comfortable talking to. And you don't maybe want to worry your friends and family about your concerns around the industry, for example. So we've got Buddies Matter program, which is the idea that it's kind of helping each other within the industry. And then we have a support line as well, which we launch for people that feel that they really need to talk to somebody, or just feel a little bit lost, or don't know where to turn to. So we created these two services for individuals in the industry. And then we've also started some webinars over the last couple of weeks that we're planning on running for the next few weeks as well, to help people on things like working from home, and how to deal with managers, or if you're the manager, how to deal with your team.
Are they free to join, Laura? Are they free to join the Buddies Matter?
Yeah, so Buddies Matter is totally free to join. Obviously, support line's totally free apart from phone costs of just calls. So that's what we do for the individuals, to try and make sure they've got support. And then we do a lot with the business owners as well, to try and help them work out how to deal with people in this kind of time period, help to train their staff, help to make them more aware of what they can do around the culture of their organisation as well.
Because I know outside of the current situation at the moment where everybody's kind of helping each other in these situations because we're all isolated and things, but I know that you guys do some things on a commercial level for companies as well, don't you, on a bigger scale and things?
Yeah.
Want to tell us a bit more about those?
Yeah, so we run, as I said right at the beginning, we really want to create accountability in what people do. So when we first did the research a few years ago, we created a pledge scheme. So we basically said, this is what we know makes for a good wellbeing environment in the events industry. And so we've asked companies to commit to the pledge scheme. They work with a pledge manager across a 12-month period, and they have a stress audit at the beginning and at the end of that year. And we see their actual progress and get them to make changes in their organization. So we run that service. We also run things like mental health first aider training, and we do wellbeing workshops. So we run a 12-month program, wellbeing workshops, covering things like nutrition, sleep, finance. And we've actually just condensed all that into a 3-month version, which we can do online. So for any events companies that still want to invest in their team at the moment, when they potentially have a little bit more time, if they're finished rearranging events, we've got that online now for people to be able to adopt into their teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to pop to a couple of questions that we've had on the thread. One of them was, any advice to self-employed people at the moment? Because obviously it's quite a stressful time with, the money factor. Having, do you furlough yourself? Well, I'm kind of in that situation.
Yeah.
I've got a sub-question to that as well. Is what's the correct answer when somebody says I'm furloughed? I don't know what the correct reaction is to it.
Yeah, it's challenging. Yeah, yeah. Are you? Yeah. How do you feel about it? I think that is the question I've been asking people when they have been telling me they're furloughed, is how do they feel about it? Because some people have kind of opted into it. Obviously, particularly more at a more senior level, they might have said, look, furlough me, furlough this other person, and then that means some of these other people can still work. So I've definitely seen that. So I think to your point, the first question is, how are you feeling? Because some people will feel very scared by that. And some people are quite happy with the fact that they furlough, because they see it as a few months where, they're taking a bit of a pay cut, but they're not having to do any work. So it is very much a kind of personal situation kind of point. In terms of self-employed, obviously there's loads of information out there in terms of the kind of the finance side of it, but trying to kind of touch on it on more the well-being side. It is tough. It's going to be tough because we don't know where that money is coming from. I'm a small business company director, and so kind of in a similar situation in that sense as well, of the fact that you are reliant on your income, and actually you haven't got that overarching organisation that can look out for you. And what I would say is, think about what you can control. You can't control the pandemic. We can't do that. What we can do is we can influence how likely we are going to have work afterwards. So think about what you can be doing now to keep in contact with those businesses that you would normally be working with, maybe looking as an opportunity to reach out to new businesses that you're not used to working with. So try and kind of gear yourself up for the future, but thinking about what you can control, which is how you go into that. We can go into it thinking, this is going to be awful, or we can try, and it takes a while, but we can try and reshift it and think about, this is an opportunity for me to maybe spend some time doing something that I wanted. A lot of people that are self-employed do it for a lifestyle reason as well. So a lot of people, only want to work a certain amount of times or certain countries, whatever. And obviously you can't suddenly use that time. We're not working to go on holiday, clearly. But there might be other things, and obviously there is financial support available. It might not help everybody, depending on the exact kind of setup of self-employment and of the work level, and obviously requirements financially. But anybody that is self-employed, that is concerned, that's exactly why we set up Buddies Matter and support line. So please kind of reach out, and we can match you with another person that's self-employed in the industry, and you can have a chat about how you're both individually supporting each other, supporting yourselves, and then can potentially help somebody else as well.
See, I know definitely that the link to Buddies Matter, I believe, is on the screen at the moment. It sounds like a real professional there doing that. Anyway, something that I see it that way, Laura, as well. I see it as, this is an opportunity. I kind of accepted I think I had to accept the situation quite. I was getting it because on the group we could see it happening in front of our eyes. So I had to accept the situation and deal with it and work with it, and then we've just took it upon ourselves to try and help as many people as we can in this situation. this is the new normal, you know. So I see it as a way to improve myself, you know, get fitter, stronger, better person, more well trained. And this is the reason why we're doing these, you know, so more people can learn about a new skill or a new product or get a bit of entertainment, team building.
Yeah.
You know, all these kind of things, develop, upskill yourself, you know, learn new things, come out of it a better person.
And that's it. And that's exactly where, so we started this series of webinars and blogs called Thrive, Not Survive. And that's exactly the principle behind it, is the fact that, you know, we can survive this. We will get through this, as your song proved that. Actually, it's the case of, you know, let's thrive, lose it as an opportunity. We use the word kind of reset, as you say there. Actually, it's not ideal. Nobody wanted this to happen, but we can't do anything about that. What we can do is think about how we can get the best out of it. So thinking about it as an opportunity, and we talk about actions for isolation lists. So what is it you're going to do if you have 3 months at home? What are the things you want to learn, get fit, you know, learn how to cook, all of these different things that you just don't normally have the time for. And if you have kids and you're having to homeschool kids as well, which I know is a big concern for people, how can you balance a new relationship with your partner, if you have a partner, to actually balance the childcare throughout the day and potentially change the way you approach your childcare going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to another question from the group. It was basically some people, it feels like some people create their own sense of stress, perhaps unknowingly, when the work, it might not be the work, it might be themselves. Any tips for identifying that? And I do relate to that. You know, you can put it on yourself. You think it's everything else, but it's actually yourself. When you realistically look at it, there's nothing. It's just yourself doing it. Have you got any tips for how to handle that kind of thing?
Yes, there's an exercise that we quite often use. You can find online, or I'm more than happy to share worksheets if anybody wants to reach out, and I can send them some worksheets about something called a stress container. So the idea being that actually thinking about specifically what it is that you feel stressed about, and looking at that and breaking that down into, if I want to try and improve that by 1 point, if I was marking it out of 10 in terms of level of stress, how can I improve it by 1 point? And what does that look like? And actually, what coping strategies have I got in place? So if I've got all these stressful things coming into my world every single day, you've got to have a coping strategy to release that stress. So lots of people like running, for example, they see that as a stress relief. Some people like reading, baths, whatever it is, talking to friends and family, mindfulness. There's lots of different things that you might do to cope with stress. But making sure that if you're being honest with yourself, saying, have I got coping strategies, and am I using them when I do feel stressed? And am I being honest about what is causing me the stress? What's the actual thing that's there that's causing me the frustration? And it's not, sometimes, as you say, it's not quite as simple as the thing that it looks like. Sometimes it's something a little bit more hidden than that. And that's what we do.
It's underlying.
Yeah, and that's what we do in our kind of coaching sessions. We get people to understand what it is really that's concerning them. COVID-19 is obviously affecting everyone, but it's affecting everybody for very different reasons, in terms of the impact that it's having on their mental health.
And I think for me, one of the big reasons the COVID-19 thing is affecting us all is we don't know a date of when it's going to finish. There's no date to work to, and us deadline-driven people are like, well, okay, I can finish my training then, and when can I start again? And so I think that's one of the big contributing factors. You just don't know how far this week. Do a plan for next week?
Yeah.
What do I do? I think it's really, really tough on us all at the moment for that.
So
any more tips, Laura, from the kind of things that you do?
So I think about your self-care. Thinking about self-care, so call it coping strategies, call it self-care. What is it you're doing for yourself? So particularly those that might be at home with family or have got very busy jobs still, think about what time you're carving out for yourself, whether or not it's your hour of exercise a day or if it's time within the home. Thinking about what you can do, even if it's 15 minutes. One of the things that I'm really recommending people do at the moment is being very conscious of what they're grateful for. So actually getting to the end of the day, if you've got somebody else you can share it with, just saying the one thing that you're grateful for example, just in getting realised that there's actually some great stuff that's still happening around. The kindness of everybody's been amazing recently, and actually we should be really grateful for that. So thinking about your self-care, if you're the kind of person that really wants time on your own, sitting, reading, do that. If you're the person that wants to be outside or going for a run and that's your stress relief, do that. So making sure people have self-care routines in place, because they'll help you after all of this has happened as well. So the more you get in the habit of them, the more they'll be there when you need them in the future too.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I'd add to that things like apps like Headspace and things like that are always good as well for putting you in the right place of mind. Are there any others, Laura, that you know about, or any that you recommend, you
Calm's a
guys,
good
or
one.
can you put some on the link afterwards?
Yeah, I can put them on afterwards. But yeah, there's some Headspace is brilliant. As far as I'm aware, they're doing a free trial at the moment as well. So you've got quite a few apps at the moment, and even kind of development things that are out there for free. So I'll have a little think and I'll see if I can pop some on there for you.
Yeah, I find they just put you in a really good state of mind. Particularly if you do them in the morning, they just set you up for the day. So do you want to tell us a bit about your support line? Also, sorry, just to caveat that, bit of full disclosure, we're working with Laura quite closely this year on all kind of mental health related things and stress things. You probably see them every month in our newsletter, so keep checking them out. But I know that one thing we helped you to bring forward to everybody was about the support line. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so thank you. So we've been looking at doing a proper support line for probably about a year or so now. We've been talking quite a lot with the #1 charity helpline provider, who do a lot of the kind of the armed forces helplines. And we really wanted to create something that everybody could access if they need it. And it's obviously only if they need it, but having something that people felt comfortable, it was there for someone to talk to. Now, we all know getting money out of the events industry can be tough. So we tried to get funding for it and managed to get about 1/3 of the funding, but not quite enough to get it off the ground. And it got to the point when with COVID-19 that more conversations were happening around that, but it felt like it was going to take too long. So what we wanted to do was create something that people could use immediately, which is now, because people need it now. So we worked with the helpline provider to use a helpline program that we can access, that people can access. And they can do that through WhatsApp, through text, or through calls. And it comes through to our central hub. And then we've got a team of volunteers that we then can basically distribute out those calls to people. So it's completely confidential. At the moment, it's being run by people in the events industry who are mental health first aiders. So for anybody that doesn't know what that means, that basically means they understand some of the symptoms and how to kind of listen non-judgmentally. And also they can do what we call signposting, which is putting you in the direction of other mental health charities that have more specialist knowledge, online resources, that type of thing. So at the moment it's being run by people in the industry, and the hope is that over the next however many months we can get enough funding together from organizations, big, small, associations, whoever can help, to say, okay, let's get this into a proper helpline system at one of the big helpline centres, who are still fully briefed on the events industry, and that's really important. We would make sure they were very, very briefed on exactly what goes on, all the different parts of the industry, all that kind of stuff. But they then have nurses on hand every day. They have trained therapists there. And so that's what we want to take it to. But at the moment, we know that this is still helping people. So that's what we wanted to do, is help as many people as we could at the moment.
Yeah, and I know I know that some of the things that we'd like to support would be, obviously the mental health first aid, that kind of thing. That would be fantastic to help build that, I think, across the whole community. Is there any way of people getting in touch to find out more about that, Laura, or can you give us a link to that later on?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can give you a link, but in essence, we run mental health first aider training. Mental Health First Aid England is the biggest organisation of trainers. So we are accredited by them to run their courses. We do 2-day, 1-day, half days. We're actually running an MHFA, with a mental health first aid question and answer session on Monday. I think it's at 1:30, because we're conscious that mental health first aiders are hopefully doing their role as mental health first aider with their teams at the moment. It means they're probably taking on quite a lot of pressure themselves. So we're very conscious about trying to support them. So we're doing a Q&A to help them help the teams, but we actually are trying to push for something called MHFA every event. So hashtag MHFA every event. We want to be in a situation in 2 to 3 years time where it doesn't matter what venue you go to, what event you go to, ideally even what shop you go to, but wherever you go, there is a trained mental health first aider as well as a physical first aider. So at our events, we know we have physical first aiders. We know how many we have per person or per group of people. Yeah. We don't currently have mental health first aiders. And I strongly believe that should be on the same level as physical first aid. You're more likely to come across somebody having suicidal thoughts than you are a heart attack. So actually, we need to have people at our events that are trained in mental health first aid. So yeah, we can support on that.
I think that's a really good initiative. Really like the sound of that. Keep us posted on that, Laura, and if we can help with spreading the publicity about that, just let us know. Got one more question, I think, before we go and wrap it up. How do you think it difficult it is, or are people able to ask for more flexible hours in work for self-care and to look after each other? Is that becoming a thing that you can ask for legitimately at work now, and and not be just told to go away?
Yeah, well, everybody has the right to ask for flexible working anyway. Now, do you is the question referring to kind of now in COVID-19 or beyond?
Maybe beyond, I guess. Yeah.
Beyond. Okay. So absolutely. One of the things that I actually thinking with my positive opportunity hat on of COVID-19, I'm really hopeful that when organizations come out the other side of this and things kind of get back into what our new normal is going to be, that actually workplaces are going to realize that you can trust your teams to do their jobs when they're not in the office. You can trust your teams to do their jobs at 10 o'clock at night or 5 o'clock in the morning if that's what they prefer to do work-wise. So what I'm hoping is that actually we see a little bit of a culture shift anyway, not just in our industry, across industries, where hopefully some of that flexibility will come through anyway. But absolutely, asking your employer is something that hopefully you feel comfortable to do. And if you don't, we can talk you through ways of doing that. But the idea being that we know that if you are mentally well and you are physically well, you are going to perform better at work. There are so many studies to show that if you're mentally fit and you are physically fit, you are going to be more productive. And ironically, with everybody working from home, we also know working from home is more productive for most people as well. So actually, I think we're going to find a situation where people are a little bit more open to having those conversations if they know they're going to get the best out of you.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think I agree with you. I think after this, that will be evident. I mean, we can clearly be trusted to work from home. We've got the capability and the technology to be able to do it. So I think that will happen more and more. Yeah, I totally agree. Well, Laura, I'd just like to thank you very much for coming on the show. Are there any kind of last messages to everybody to kind of get through this COVID stuff, particularly the next couple of weeks where it's still a bit uncertain, still a lot of worry about health issues, etc. Are there any kind of small takeaways for people?
I think my biggest thing is be kind. Be kind to yourself is the most important thing. So as you say, it's changing. It's going to keep changing. Nobody knows the answers. So be compassionate, be kind to yourself to know you don't need to know all the answers because you can't. So think about, as I said, what you can control, and you can't control so many things around you. Just focus on whether or not you can make yourself happy at that time, and kindness, because we know we're going to have a much better kind of time generally if we're in a positive mood than if we're not. So actually, the more we can remind ourselves just to be friendly and self-care and look out for other people as well. If you're doing it for yourself, hopefully you can then extend that gratitude and kindness out to other people too.
Fantastic, Laura. Totally agree. Well, thank you once again for your time, for coming in. Good luck with everything. We'll put some links on the group later to all the things we've discussed. I'd also like to thank Dom in the background on the controls. Look at that. He's probably just put himself in there. I'd just like to say, look out for the next one of these coming up. It's going to be next week. It's going to be on a slightly different subject. In fact, it's going to be loads of fun. Not that this wasn't fun, Laura.
It's okay. Mental health, well-being, fine.
No, but the next one's absolutely going to be tons of fun. I think it's going to be early next week. We're probably going to announce it later on the group. As Laura said, we're trying to help each other as much as we can and help the group and the wider community. We've got lots of things that you can do and get involved with on the group. It's all totally free. We've got the new thing we just launched, Delegate Wranglers Showtime, which is for all entertainers to kind of showcase themselves. We'll put you on all our social media things, and that'll be great for everybody to watch all these videos. We've got a new feature called Special Agents, which is for agents to kind of tell us about themselves. Supplier Focus, about suppliers to tell us about themselves, and a getting to know thing for freelancers and other people in the industry. So please get involved. Keep community spirit up. Thanks very much for everything, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.